back to a theater near you. My name is Kris Randazzo, and I'm joined this evening, as always, by totally convincing practical effect, Paul Giroux.
That's me. Totally convincing.
And mostly naked warrior, Sean Doyle.
I was gonna share!
This month's letter was M, and we went with my pick, Masters of the Universe, which was certainly a memorable film. How did Courtney Cox's career recover from this mess? Let's find out. But first, how are you guys doing?
Excellent. I'm doing excellent.
That just reminded me. I keep seeing ads for this Billy the Kid movie, and I can't not think of Bill and Ted every time I see it. Like, I think it's a Bill and Ted movie about Billy the Kid, but it's just some super serious Billy the Kid movie.
I would have watched that spinoff.
Me too.
Oh,
I keep getting disappointed every time.
Like a spinoff where Socrates and Billy the Kid like go around and I don't know.
Oh, Socrates and Billy the Kid. Bob
Absolutely.
Genghis Khan is the bad guy at the end. Surprise!
Yes.
Oh, God.
Now you're just making me sad.
Yeah. I'm doing good. If we're getting back to that thing that you said there with how we doing, let me see here. I think I just told you, just came back from vacation. It was pretty nice. On the way out on the vacation, we went to the drive-in movie theater that we go to where we camp, and we saw the 1960s Batman movie, which was everything I dreamed it would be. It was. I forget how much I like that movie. Like, I forget how fun and weird it is, and I think it still holds up all these years later. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, can I ask you guys a thing that is entertainment related, and hopefully it doesn't spawn a huge tangent, because I think it could. But it's been a month since we recorded, right? On Memorial Day weekend, did you guys start with Obi-Wan first, or did you start with Stranger Things first?
Memorial Day weekend, we started with... Correct, because I'm having the opposite thing right now, because Obi-Wan and Ms. Marvel are happening at the same time. I think we watched Obi-Wan first, and then we did Stranger Things, but then I think we reversed it the following week. And then we blew through the rest of Stranger Things. And then we started The Boys, which, oh man. Are either of you guys watching that show?
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of shows that have just hit all at once.
Yeah, and the first episode of the new season, that the explosive beginning first episode of the new season was certainly nothing I'd ever seen before.
So, I have the distinct privilege of not being a computer person. So, none of this stuff gets spoiled for me.
Wait a minute, Sean. Wait a minute. You're not a computer person?
Yeah. So,
the guy whose X doesn't work on his keyboard is not a computer person?
Jacqueline's a little less lucky, so she's like, every now and then she'll be like, damn it, we're too far behind. But like, so I'm never in a rush to watch this stuff. So like, when Stranger Things came out, we're not going to watch Obi-Wan because we haven't even watched Boba Fett yet. We loved Mandalorian, and I know you don't have to watch Boba Fett before Obi-Wan, but I want to watch Boba Fett. We just haven't gotten to it. We were busy watching Shoresy, which was great. If you don't know that, it's a spinoff from Letterkenny, and if you don't know that show is freaking hysterical. But
I thought maybe Shoresy was like a Pauly Shore related thing.
No, but if we just say that a lot, we'll get more listeners. Pauly Shore. Then we went to go start Stranger Things, and we were like, we kind of got to go back and watch the first 3 seasons again. So now we dropped everything else. We started Stranger Things over from season 1. We're back up to season 3. We're like halfway through season 3. We'll probably finish that this week. No, tomorrow's Friday. We'll finish that next week, season 3. So we'll probably start season 4 in like 2 weeks because we have a vacation plan. And then what was the other show you mentioned? Oh, The Boys. I watched the first season and then kind of lost track of it. And I enjoyed the first season. It wasn't my type of show, but it was so well done that it was good. Like, Breaking Bad. I enjoyed every season of Breaking Bad. That is not my TV, right? That's not a show that was on my radar. I watched it because Joe kept forcing me to watch it, and it was just so well done that I could sit there and enjoy it. Like that's not my genre, but it was amazing. And I felt like that about The Boys. I know it's superheroes, but those aren't the comic books I read, right? Those aren't the type of comic books I enjoyed, but it was so
Mhm.
well done that I would keep watching it. But I blew through season 1 in a week, like a year after it came out, and season 2 wasn't out, and then I just never thought of it again. So I guess I got to go back and catch up on that. What's season 3 or 4 just came out, right?
Three just started.
Yeah.
And it's been renewed for a fourth. And boy, the I lost my train of thought. Rats.
I put a lot out there, and on all those big shows.
Well, I want to say this while you're coming
Oh,
up.
that was it. Watching Stranger Things the way you're doing it right now is super smart because there's only 2 episodes left in the season that haven't aired, and they air July 1st. So as long as you keep on this trajectory, and you'll be able to do all of season 4 with no break.
Are you kidding me? There's only 2 episodes left. I thought there was like another. I thought part 2 of the season was another like 7 or 8 episodes, like this was.
That's what I thought too, but according to what I've found on the internets, it's only 2 more episodes. Now, granted, those episodes are longer than the previous ones, but not by a lot because the other episodes are pretty goddamn long.
Yeah, it's going to feel like it ends with almost like a movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like there's only 1 season left after this, so
I don't know why this is the way it is, but I feel like because of the loss of cable networks, the loss of these cable networks, and now we're just dealing with like Hulu and Netflix and everything else. I'm hiccuping on a podcast. It's terrible. We're slowly turning into the BBC style of TV shows where like seasons are arbitrary. It's like because like I don't know if you guys watch any BBC shows, but like season 3 of the IT Crowd is literally like 2 episodes. It's like that's not a season. That's it's 2 episodes. You can't do this, and that's what BBC is like infamous for that. They'll be like 10 seasons and there'll be 70 or 17 episodes in 10 seasons or something. It's like that's not a season. What are you doing? And then the time lengths of them are random too. It's like, well, this episode was only 15 minutes, but this one was an hour and a half. What are you doing?
It's gonna sound weird to say this, but I think seasons should be arbitrary. Like, and I feel like I'm going down a rabbit hole by saying this, but like I'm gonna use those Marvel Netflix shows as my example for this, like the Daredevil and Jessica Jones ones and stuff. I feel like Marvel started kind of coming up with this template, right? Where they're like, we do 6 episodes or we do 8 episodes. They're somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour, and it really worked for some of those seasons. And then some of them you're like, this was like 2 episodes too long. Like, you could have told this story in 6 episodes instead of 8 episodes, and it would have been so much tighter and like more, like easier to follow and more enjoyable.
I know you're not talking about Daredevil because those are the 3 best seasons of any show ever, in my opinion. I know I'm very biased, but they freaking nailed it. It was my childhood brought to life, and I'll never be happier than when I watched those 3 seasons.
I think you're right. I think Daredevil was pretty good all through the 3. I think that Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, I think specifically in the 2nd season, like it was like, okay, we could have tightened this up, like we sometimes I think in that 2nd season of Jessica Jones, she spent at least like 2.5 episodes considering if she should like turn her mom in or kill her, or like some of that, like that could have been like 1 episode.
Yeah, watching those, I remember thinking that season 2 wasn't as good as season 1. I was pinning it all on they lost the Purple Man, who I thought was, even though I liked the Daredevil more, the Purple Man was just such a wonderful villain. Was his name Tennant or whatever? He did an amazing job. So I chalked up season 2 not being as good to that. But you're right, they could have edited better.
Yeah, and these newer the Disney Plus ones, I think, are falling into that situation where they're like, all right, we have whatever episodes you want to tell this story in. Like they don't seem to be quite as standardized. Like Obi-Wan is only 6 episodes long, and cool. I think what is it? Moon Knight was only 6 episodes too. So cool.
Yeah.
And I've been loving the shit out of both of them. So.
All right, so the reason I took us down this rabbit hole was to bring up a completely different thing, right? As I asked you which thing you started with on Memorial Day weekend, and we started with Obi-Wan, but it was like I wanted Nate to want to watch it too, and we watched the first one, and then Nate was like, all right, cool. Like, I'll watch the second one later. And I was like, oh man, but like he has been watching it with us, but like we watched the first one and then we watched some other stuff and then we watched the second one. We started Stranger Things later. But oddly enough, the thing I ended up actually watching that weekend, the Friday and Saturday, was on HBO Max. There is a 2-part George Carlin special, which is, I think it's probably like over 2 hours long. It might even be almost 3 hours long. It's 2 parts, and each part is almost like a little movie. And I started watching it while I was killing time waiting for Sherry to come downstairs. And then the next night when I was reading to Nate, she caught up with it, and she was like, let's watch it together. And we did. And it's effing amazing. It's so good. It really honestly focuses on his comedy and how he evolved as a comic each decade, like going from the 60s, from being sort of like the straight-laced, like socially acceptable comic, to the 70s where he was like the counterculture guy, to the 80s where he sort of almost became irrelevant, to the 90s where he was like political satire. Like it was really well done, and it made me it sort of took me back, because it made me think, Sean, of like the first time I slept over your house and you had that record player in your room and you were like, hey, I got these records. Like, I listened to them before I go to bed. You ever heard any George Carlin? And I was like, no. And you were like, here, let me open your world. And you played that 7 Dirty Words record for me, and it like changed my little life. And it made me think about that. And then that night before I went to bed, I was searching on Apple Music, which, like, we've already had this discussion of like Paul doesn't know how to absorb music. Like, I want to own it and put it on my iPod. And like the fact that, I got this streaming thing, I'm like, how do I wrap my brain around this? And sort of the fact that there's so many things, I think makes it hard for me to process it. Like, any music is at your fingertips. But I searched for George Carlin. All his comedy albums are on there. And I was like, I'm going to listen to this to go to bed. And I went to sleep like a baby. Like, it's very soothing. I highly recommend it. It's all on Apple Music.
Those records, I listened to those over and over again. I did see the thing posted up there, but me and Jacqueline are going to watch that together, so we have to wait until we finish Stranger Things. That's that, and apparently Norm Macdonald just came out. I know he's deceased, but somehow he just came out with a new special. It seems like dying doesn't stop people. About that? No.
So the first time he went into the hospital, like for a scare, he was like, I have this material. We should record this just in case things go south. So he recorded all that. He recorded a bunch of stuff in case things went bad the first time, and then he got better. And so he just took that stuff and put it aside. And then he got sick again. And as things were going even further south, when he was actually dying, he was talking to his producers and people and was like, all right, here's this thing in my closet. Go get that, put it together, and release it after I die.
Oh, that's a hard, dark start. I mean, I guess it depends on your take. You could say it's joyous. I don't know. Good planning, good life lived, I guess. I don't know. It seems a little dark to know that going into a comedy special, Kris. Thanks a lot.
I just thought it was a fascinating story. I remember reading the story about it, that he was coming out. There was a new comedy special that he recorded before he died, and I was like, well, that's pretty wild. And like, he was just like, I think this might be it, and I have things I want to say. So it's all recorded in his house or something like that. I haven't watched it yet. I'm pretty excited to see it.
I love Norm Macdonald. I think he's hilarious. I watched a little bit of it. I think I'm gonna finish it, but what I found is that, because it's all recorded in his house and it almost looks like a Zoom meeting. You know what I mean? Like it seems like it's better to try to watch in smaller chunks. Like probably if it wasn't a Netflix special and it was like a series of YouTube clips, people would be like, "Whoa, I can't get enough of this." But I think because it's a Netflix special, it feels a little tough to get through. I think I'm going to watch it in chunks.
All right. Something to keep in mind.
How are you guys doing? How are you, Sean?
I'm good. We spent a half hour on yours. I think I'm good. Sums it up for me. I have rabbit holes, but they're more. I tried to keep them related to the movie, so we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait till we get there.
All right. Well, I don't think I watched anything else besides this that was noteworthy besides TV. I could talk about TV all night long, but I have a whole separate podcast for that. So, yeah, I guess let's get to work on Masters of the.
Right.
Wait a minute. You guys watch Masters of the Universe? Because I watched something that was called Masters of the Universe, but let me tell you, I don't think it was Masters of the Universe because I used to watch the crap out of that cartoon when I was a kid, and this thing was nothing like it. I got 41 titles for this movie that are more accurate for the Masters of the Universe. You just let me know when you want to hear them. You want to hear one? You want to hear the first one?
Oh,
Absolutely.
please.
All right, here we go. Kevin saves the world with music. That is a more accurate title for this movie than Masters of the Universe.
You're not wrong.
I guess if I say that, it implies that I'm spoiling the end of the movie of what Kevin does. So how about the title is "There's Only One Kevin"? I think that little leprechaun guy said that to him at one point. He's like, "There's only one Kevin." So like that could be the title of the movie.
Why was he a leprechaun?
Kevin
seemed like he was more our hero than He-Man was.
Oh, he definitely was. This movie was all wrong. It was all wrong. All right, let's get the basics out of the way. Masters of the Universe was released.
The director didn't bother doing that.
Oh boy! And when we read more about his career, you'll probably figure out why. Masters of the Universe was released on August 7th, 1987, and was distributed by the Cannon Group. It was directed by Gary Goddard, whose other credits include Jurassic Park, The Ride's pre-show video, Hershey's Really Big 3D Show, and a bunch of producer credits. The movie stars Dolph Lundgren, Frank Langella, Courtney Cox, James Tolkien, Christina Pickles, and Meg Foster. It tells the story of...
You just said a whole bunch of names. I don't think any of them people were Kevin.
What?
And he's the hero of the movie.
Yeah, but like, what was the actor? Because I don't recognize him at all.
Oh, no.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but I believe he was the star of the movie.
But I think you just
absolutely
named
was. He
Courtney
was the
Cox.
central part of the movie.
You just named Courtney Cox, whatever she was, He-Man and Skeletor, right? Think of the names you just gave us.
Dolph Lundgren, Frank Langella, Courtney Cox, and then James Tolkien, Christina Pickles, and Meg Foster. Meg Foster was Evelyn, right?
Her part was so small. And that's not really complete. I just I don't know. We're bringing her up like.
The internet says Christina Pickles is the sorceress of Castle Grayskull.
That was a tiny ass part.
Yeah,
that was even smaller than Evelyn.
I can tell you that James Tolkien. I recognize that name. No, I recognize his name. He played the cop. He played Lubbock.
Oh yeah. That was a real important role right there. Yep.
I have a lot to say about Lubbock.
He was super important because you couldn't. Oh, did this movie come out in 91? Is that what he said?
87.
87. Okay, you couldn't have a 1980s movie without that guy in it. Like he was in all three Back to the Futures, right? He was the principal. He's usually like a cop or a principal. It's usually a secondary role.
Which is
Wow.
the reason I recognize the name, and also was confused the whole movie. I kept calling him Skinner because when he was introduced to us, when Lubbock the cop was introduced to us, he was at that dance. Like those creatures like blew up that dance. And so
Right.
then I'm like, there he is. Principal Skinner, or not Skinner? Was
Not
that
Skinner. No, it couldn't have been Skinner. What was
What's
it
his
in Back
name?
to the Future? His name was Principal was it
Strickland.
Skinner?
Strickland.
There it is.
There
Oh
it is.
God.
Skinner.
Yeah. That
Wow.
was
So
not.
Kevin's like pretty low down on the list of people here. He wasn't even listed on the Wikipedia page as one of the people who was starring. Robert Duncan McNeil was him, and it looks like he also was in some episodes of Star Trek Voyager, and he reprised his role in Star Trek Lower Decks. Which, if you've never seen that show is fantastic.
Is that the cartoon?
Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
it's fantastic.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, and he hasn't really done a whole lot else. So that's a thing.
Perhaps.
Anyway, the movie tells the story of a team of heroes trying to get some sort of weird musical key away from the evil Skeletor and his minions by fleeing to our world in the 80s and then blowing a bunch of stuff up. And there's a guy named Kevin who saves the world with music.
Yeah, I don't even know that is a great explanation of what this movie was. Here, you want another one of my 41 more accurate movie titles? How about this one?
Hit me.
The Scrotum-Faced Leprechaun and the Synthesizer. How about that one?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
You didn't ask us a key question yet, which is one of my tangents. So go ahead and ask your question, Chris.
So how did you watch this movie?
All right. I'm going to take the 41-minute answer, Paul.
Unhappily.
Oh, see, I had a ball watching this. This is my kind of garbage. But anyway, go on.
Oh no, it was. I enjoyed myself. I watched it by non-nefarious means. I think it was on HBO, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to say HBO.
Yes, it was.
And I don't remember what I ate. I didn't take note of that, but I couldn't come up with a Masters of the Universe themed snack. But what I did, I was like, somebody must have made a He-Man alcoholic beverage. Let me go find that. So what I found was there was this bar called something and larder. Let's call it Barrel and Larder. Barrel and Lard, something like that. Larder, right? That's like a cellar, whatever. And they had an entire, this is what the website said, an entire He-Man themed cocktail menu, right? And then they gave the names of the drinks, but not how to make them, except for one, which was the Sword of Protection. They did tell you how to make that, which is actually the name of Shiva's sword, which isn't He-Man, but it's his cousin. We'll let that slide. That belongs on the list. I'm fine with that. You're stretching a little, but it's great. But one of the
Same
drinks,
universe.
same universe. But one of the drinks was the Panthro, which at first I'm like, this guy must really love Masters of the Universe. And then I saw the Panthro and I was like, that's not right. That's not right at all. What are you doing? You got all Masters of the Universe themed drinks and then the Panthro?
And
That's
one
just-
Thundercat?
One Thundercat. Just one. It's a weird move. But anyway, the Sword of Protection.
They could have called it the Battle Cat and they didn't?
The Battle
Was there
Cat. Of course. No, I didn't see a Battle Cat.
Son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch. What the hell? Why? Why Panthro? I couldn't. And I would have called up and complained, especially after I had a couple Sword of Protections in me. Except apparently just recently they went out of business. They were in Colorado. That wasn't going to stop me from calling them and having a conversation with a bartender. But they went out of business.
Somebody should check the way that He-Man had Battle Cat or Cringer. Didn't Skeletor have a big purple panther?
There was a big purple panther toy. I don't actually remember it in the cartoon, but I guess it was there. There was a toy.
Didn't he ride on a big cat?
Was it named Panthro?
Oh, Panthor.
Oh, maybe I'm illiterate. Maybe it's all okay. and I was a little lit up, so it was probably that. Everything's probably okay. I take back all my negative vibes I was sending out to the cocktail designer at the Barrel and Lard in Colorado that is no longer there. The Sword of Protection, by the way, a little bit of absinthe, drizzled around the inside of the glass, followed by a lot of rye, a lot of brown sugar, and a little bit of walnut bitters. Yeah, it was delicious. I'm drinking one right now because I had to go out and buy rye and walnut bitters because I don't have those things. But yeah, that's how I intook this movie. And Jacqueline did not watch this one with me. This is the first one. Even Mortal Kombat, she was like, "Yeah, wait for me. I want to watch Mortal Kombat." Not this one. She was like, "No, you're good. I'll pass."
Yeah, I couldn't get Karen to join me for this one either.
I say you're drunk, Sean, and go have yourself a snarf.
Indeed. Panther. I didn't remember Skeletor's cat's name. That's on me. And my illiteracy. But okay, how'd you intake it, Paul?
I'm gonna say that while I watched the movie, that I had a cup of coffee, because I'll cop to watching it this morning. I did actually watch it on Saturday night, but I think I didn't pay attention to it. Like, I was annoyed by it, and I was like, it started, and I was like, I don't know what this garbage is, and like my brain kind of like tuned it out. And so while I sat there and watched it on Saturday night, I felt like I didn't absorb any of it, and I was like, this doesn't seem fair for the podcast. So I watched it again this morning, and yeah, I think I got a lot more out of it. But I sat and had myself a cup of coffee this morning and watched the movie.
Nice. I took it in via nefarious means because I've canceled just about everything else, every other service I have, and I watched it. Karen had something to do, so I attempted to watch it by myself, but this movie put me in a happy place. It's that kind of like 80s cheese. It's really bad, but like kind of in an entertaining way. And I wound up falling asleep about 45 minutes in, and then I finished it the other day. And yeah, I don't remember what I snacked on. Probably chocolate milk. That's usually, it was chocolate milk and a cookie because I made chocolate chip cookies last week. And that was my experience.
We should have had chicken wings. That's another movie title I came up with for this movie.
Just gonna microwave a bucket of chicken.
Interdimensional travelers and chicken wings. That was another one of my movie idea titles for this movie.
Not Orko likes chicken.
Not Orko.
So when it started, I was really like kind of excited. I mean, I already knew that wasn't what the movie was going to be, which made me sad because I already knew that this was kind of the earlier iteration of that really crappy thing that Hollywood likes to do, where they like, all right, we have this property that's set in this really fantastic world, but we have absolutely no faith in our ability to do that right. So we're going to do, what if this cartoon thing existed in our world? And we've seen that in Master of the Universe. We've seen it in Smurfs. We've seen it in Sonic the Hedgehog. And every single one of those situations is worse for it. Because, and the start of the movie, they're in Eternia, and there's all this magic stuff, and everyone's wearing stupid outfits. And I was like, all right, I could watch a whole movie of this garbage. So this is terrible, but I'm happy. I'm enjoying it because everybody involved seems to be trying their best, except for the director. There's a lot of talent on set. None of it's behind the cameras. But then they showed up in the 80s, and then Courtney Cox showed up. I had no idea that was happening. And it just kept getting worse from there in vaguely entertaining ways. But that whole intro where they're in Eternia doing magic stuff, it's like, cool.
You know, I feel like you could probably reinsert a big chunk of our Mortal Kombat podcast right here. Just edit it right in, Kris, after the fact, because Mortal Kombat does the same thing where they give you a little taste of that other world, but then they stay in this world, which is, I'll give Mortal Kombat a pass on that, because at least that was supposed to take place here and only reference the other universe in most of, or at least the early games.
At least that's part of the plot. You know?
Right. But then they follow up transferring it to Earth for, no good reason other than, you're right, they didn't either have the budget or the balls to try to actually do it in Eternia. And then they follow up with let's get rid of all the giant cast of characters we have and make up our own.
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Well, I think it was a little bit of both things that dictated the decision to do that. I think it was a lack of budget and a lack of faith. And like with the lack of budget thing, like I think you can point to some really specific things, that scrotum faced leprechaun being one of them. You know, like that obviously should have been Orko. They obviously did not know how to make a free floating little critter like that. And
It's a kid in a nightgown. Come on, we DMN this up all the time. You just throw a kid in a nightgown. Look, everyone's against blackface, but when it's Orko's account, I don't know. You paint his face black and you throw a hat on him, and you go with it. It would have been better than the leprechaun. That's what I'm
You
saying.
don't even need to paint the face black. You just do Jawas, but make them float.
You don't even have to make him float. Just hide the
really,
feet. I can't see
exactly,
his feet.
yeah.
I don't
Good
even know if Orko has feet. I assume he doesn't, but who knows?
yeah,
They don't touch the ground, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have them.
I think if he was Orko and he didn't float, I would have forgiven it. You know, the leprechaun guy was just too much. He was just
But they had to make him like some sort of scientist to make him use this stupid synthesizer thing, and like the makeup on his face was super ambitious, but didn't really work. Because they kept doing these close-up shots of his face, and you could just see nothing's moving. Like his lips are moving underneath the makeup, but not a whole lot's going on there.
Yeah. One of the things that really annoyed me about the characters, as I was watching it, it occurred to me, they bring in that cohort of guys, right? What is it, like 4 of them at first? Like the entourage of, we're going to go get He-Man?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They were his best mercenaries, he said. Beastman, Baldy, Snake Guy, and Crustface.
Right. So, Beastman, all right, that was a He-Man guy. And you know what?
I remember Beastman.
Look, did he look exactly like the cartoon? No. But was it somewhere in the ballpark? Yeah. I'm fine with it. I think they did a fine job. Great. You brought that character to life. He was more orangey, a little more beastie in the cartoon. Whatever. It's fine. Good job. The sword guy.
Evelyn was important.
Evelyn was important. They did her. They just didn't make her yellow skinned, like she had some sort of drinking disease or something. So all right, fine. The Blade guy, he was clearly like, they started designing Trapjaw, and then they were like, I don't know how to give this guy a gun for an arm. Let's just call him something else. And they just because when you look at the helmet he was wearing, it kind of starts to give him that Trapjaw look. Like he's got this weird piece of metal that comes down to his chin with a couple little blades. It's like, you started and gave up. I see what you did. And then this is the worst one, is that snake guy that ends up getting killed early, right? I don't remember what they called him now, but there was like 4 snake-themed He-Man action figures.
Yeah, there was. You're right.
I had like 2 or 3 of them, and I was like, and I was annoyed about this, so then I looked them up, and I don't remember what they all were now, but like I had the reddish one whose neck got longer, and then there was like a guy whose front half like flipped down and he had snake arms or something, right? I think there was like 1 or 2 others, and they called this guy something else. Like, why not just call him, I don't remember now, Ratlore or whatever. Like, he was a snake person. You were there. Just do it. Just own it. Even that other guy was lizard faced. I don't know. You could have given him one of those names, and I would have given you a pass on it. But no, they were like, well, just make up some names for, what did they call the one guy? Blade?
Yeah, Blade.
And then Blade's big scene, they gave him a whip. Like, really? Blade's going to come in with a magic whip?
Oh, man. That whip scene, that was something else, huh?
You're going to make up a character and you can't stay on theme for one movie? Unbelievable.
The 4 bad guys, the 4 quote-unquote mercenaries, it should have been Beastman, Triclops, Trapjaw, and I don't know, that like dude with the white face that kind of looked like a weird fishy fish face. You know that guy?
Yeah. Merman? Are you talking about Merman?
He might have been. I don't know.
I think his name was Merman. Like, he was like a green, watery guy.
Yeah, it should have been those four. Like, so, all right. Here again, I think this is all. I think you can chalk all this up to poor budget and poor planning, right? But like, if they really wanted to like maximize their their fan base, really, if they really wanted to like cater to all the kids that wanted to see all the cool He-Man characters, and make the most out of the movie, if I recall, the movie kind of it like there was kind of like three waves of evil characters that came to Earth, right? Like first they sent the four mercenaries, those four characters, only one of which was really a He-Man, a Masters of the Universe villain. And then the second time around, they sent Evil in and some of them guys and like a bunch of robot dudes. And then finally at the end, Skeletor came to our world, right? So like if they really wanted to like do it right, they could have sent a couple, like they could have gone, here's your four mercenaries and done four of these characters, and maybe one of them could have been some made up character that we didn't know, right? And that could have been the one that Skeletor zapped and punished and evaporated, right? And then maybe somebody could have died in a battle, I don't know, right? Like, but that first batch could have not worked out, and then they could have sent like the heavy hitters, right? They could have sent Trapjaw and Triclops and Beastman. Like that would have been like the perfect way to use more of these guys, but they just made up three characters.
Budgeting is an excuse for some of the characters, like who's the guy with two heads? Maybe he's just called Two Heads. I don't remember. Their names weren't real inventive, but there was one He-Man action figure I loved had two heads. Doesn't matter. Some of the bad guys would have been tough, but Triclops, that would have been easier than doing that lizard guy with the bad wig. Like that guy had a lot of makeup. Triclops, you can phone that in, right? I mean, you just need a big bulky dude who's mostly naked, and you throw this weird little thing or visor around his head, and he can't. He's got to act without being able to see.
Well, I think Triclops would. I mean, I'm sorry. I think Trapjaw would have been a no-brainer. I mean, like you made the point that like maybe they didn't know how to make his arm a gun, but like who cares if he had a freaking Trapjaw? Then he's Trapjaw. You know what I mean?
That's like really all you needed to do there.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they had just called Blade Trapjaw, I would have almost gone along with it. I don't know. Do the helmet a little different. I would have been like, fine, whatever. Yeah. Oy. Lots of bad decisions right out of the gate for this non-director. Just
a huge set of missed opportunities. Like, how did this guy land this job? Like, it's a bummer because it was such a huge property and it really could have been something super stupid and fun. It's a 1987 high fantasy movie, which obviously was going to require a decent amount of special effects, but there's so many weird decisions, like the decision to take him out of Eternia. Really, all we saw of Eternia was the throne room and Skeletor's castle. But then you got the casting of Skeletor as Frank Langella. Like, Frank Langella is great, but he's not Skeletor.
I was going to say, you're saying like it's 87, it's fantasy, so it's not good. You got some limitations. Right there, they did, like, in 87, if not 87, like 86, 87, 88, they did so many great fantasy movies in that era where they did stay in the weird world, like Neverending Story and Legend and Labyrinth, and Time Bandits kind of went in and out of weird worlds and our world, but, not because of budgetary constraints, because that was what the story required. So, like, and all of those movies came out, I think, in the later half of the 80s, like, all within a few years of there. So Hollywood was, and I don't know that they were super high budget movies. Hollywood knew how to do fantasy landscapes. Like, they were on it. Like, I know we didn't have the computer stuff we have today, but that wasn't holding people back at this point. So I don't even know that that's a fair excuse to wield out in defense of this one.
I think the point that you're missing in all of those movies is they had real talent behind them. You think about stuff like Dark Crystal and Labyrinth and Willow, like those worked because they had the right people behind them. This was kind of like what we were looking at with King Solomon's Mine. We're like, that was great, let's do that. And then they just did that. They were like, all right, well, we have this property, so let's make it work. Sure, just go with it. And then they wound up with this steamy pile of awful movie. Now, again, I did think it was really fun to watch because the soundtrack was ridiculous. It was everyone on screen was charismatic. So that was definitely something worth watching. It made more sense than King Solomon's Mine in a lot of ways, but
I don't know that I agree that everybody on screen was charismatic. I thought He-Man and Skeletor were kind of boring, and I thought they were the most boring part of the movie. And
yeah, but they were barely in it.
well, which is the whole problem. And I like to your point about just the decision making that went into this and the way that this was handled. Like, I think that not only did it shortchange the idea of Masters of the Universe, it made you, I don't know how to put this. It made you, even to invest in it on that level, it made you need to know about Masters of the Universe because it didn't give you any context for the bizarre shenanigans that you were seeing on screen. So, let me give you an example. Kris, you just talked about Skeletor in his castle. Skeletor was not in his castle. Skeletor was in Castle Grayskull, which is where He-Man lived, where He-Man gets his power from, right? And I think they said in the beginning, in a mesh of garbled nonsense, that they said that Skeletor has taken over Castle Grayskull and that now all the forces are trying to get it back, blah, 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 right? So, like, so many things about the He-Man, the Masters of the Universe, like, story stuff that we're not getting or understanding or seeing. We're not hearing anything about Prince Adam. The Battle Cat isn't in it at all. There's, and like, in order to even understand who you're looking at with He-Man and Man-at-Arms and Teela, you like have to already know who those characters are, right? And so, like, if we were gonna make a like a Batman movie or a Spider-Man movie, I guess I'll give those two examples, right? Because I feel like those are franchises that have been made over and over again, and sometimes you go into the weeds and you're like, here's the spider biting him, or here's the Wayne's getting killed in the alley, and like you lay out all the stuff, right? Or sometimes you're like, hey, everybody knows this stuff, and we're gonna hit the story at this place, right? But even if you do that, you're gonna throw in some line of dialogue somewhere that is expositional for the people that have been living under a rock and don't know what that is. Like, there's going to be some conversation with Aunt May where we mention Uncle Ben, or we're going to have some conversation with Alfred where we strategically mention his parents, right? Like, there's going to be something where we get that stuff out of the way. But like, this movie was so convoluted. They wanted, like you had to know all this Masters of the Universe stuff, and then like they put it in our world and kind of like assumed that you had the context of this world of Eternia to like understand what the hell you were watching. Like, it was really tough.
See, I felt like when watching the movie that the movie was hoping for the exact opposite. I felt like the movie was really hoping that you didn't know anything about the mythology behind Masters of the Universe, because it was just doing its own thing as crappy as possible, with like just taking the shortcuts out of everything as far as narrative was concerned, and just kind of hoping that the fact that Dolph Lundgren was occasionally on screen swinging a sword looking kind of like He-Man was going to be enough.
And how did they downplay Dolph? Like, I know it seems stupid, but then, like, not just downplaying He-Man. Like, Dolph Lundgren was a big name right then, right? I mean, he'd already done Rocky, and he was like a big action guy in the late '80s, early '90s, right? Like, they paid for him, they got him on screen. Paul's saying it was a little flat, but I don't think he did a terrible job. I'm not pinning this on his performance. and they just like left it. I assume there was more footage of him. They were just like, nah, let's
Yeah,
focus on this kid.
Yeah, no, this dude. First, we're gonna turn the focus to Courtney Cox, and then we're gonna make her boyfriend the most important dude in the universe.
yeah.
What?
I actually thought Dolph Lundgren was all right, and I think that a lot of the issue with it was, was a lack of featuring him and a lack of faith in him, and also just the way that the story was told. Like, like I feel like I saw He-Man in the beginning, and then I paused it the next time I saw him in the movie, and 30 minutes had elapsed. So, like, I think part of me being like He-Man and Skeletor were boring was that the story became not about them. But I think for what he was given, Dolph Lundgren did a pretty good job. And I think the other thing that was impressive about Dolph Lundgren is that he's fucking big and impressive. Like, he looks like He-Man, and because nobody else is going to look like a big hulking barbarian like that guy, it meant Dolph Lundgren had to do all those stunts. And I thought, I thought Dolph Lundgren was pretty cool to watch. Unfortunately, I thought the opposite of Skeletor, and
Yeah.
and they would have been better to do less close-ups of Skeletor.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing I realized was at the end of the movie when they had that final battle between the two of them and Skeletor was wearing that big headdress, it was because they because they had to have a stunt man for Skeletor because Frank Langella was not going to battle Dolph Lundgren, and so they had to put this weird headdress on him so that they could have some stuntman in there.
I thought they just wanted to be the predecessor of Super Shredder. They were like, someday soon, there'll be a Super Shredder. We have to get there first. It's an arms race. It's the 80s. They're all about
Super
arms races.
Shredder.
What's a Super Shredder?
I said it's a Super
it's
Shredder.
A super Shredder. What do you mean, what's a Super Shredder?
You guys want another movie title for this movie?
Mm-hmm.
Bring them on.
How about always pick up sharp, pokey danger sticks you find in the cemetery?
For sure.
It's not grave robbing if it's on top. That's not a title. That's just a life lesson.
How about this one? Monsters from Another World mercilessly beat a gym teacher.
God, I forgot all about that scene. Yeah, this movie was a complete disaster. It was just a mess, top to bottom. I did have fun watching it, though.
Sure.
I mean, I'm very glad that I've now seen this movie. I'm never gonna watch it again. But
I got another tangent that doesn't fit in anywhere. I'm gonna throw it in right here.
Okay.
Go for it.
Do you guys? I don't know how well worn this path already is. Right? You guys know the story about Skeletor?
No.
In relation to
In
what?
this-
In
in
relation
this
to this
movie?
In relation, no, in relation to a dead body. You know about this?
No.
No.
All right, so I'll cite my sources. I listened to a murder podcast called My Favorite Murder with Jacqueline, so that's where I'm getting part of this information. The other part of this, if you watch that show on Netflix, it's called The Toys That Made Us.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
They do part of it in there and part of it on the My Favorite Murder thing, but if you put them together, it's a much better story. So I will try to make it brief. Basically, what happened in the 1970s, the $6 Million Man was filming an episode of its TV show in LA, and they were using on location stuff, and they went to this funhouse, and they were like, the crew or whatever is getting the funhouse ready for the shoot, and they're inside the funhouse moving things around, like, oh, we don't want this, we do want this, let's move this over there, whatever they're doing, right? And they go to take down this one like hanging dead mannequin, right? And the guy grabs the arm, and the arm pulls off. But inside, it looks like a bunch of like, I don't know, rotten chicken or something. And he's like, I don't think this is a mannequin. It was a real dead body, right?
Ooh.
That was just hanging in this funhouse. Now, the way that dead body got there is that back in like, and I'm going to get 10% of this like flat wrong, but this is mostly right. I'm going to say the 1920s, right? It was a long time earlier. I'm going to say the 20s. This dude robbed a train. He wasn't good at his job. He got shot by the cops, right? And apparently he robbed the trains because he wanted to be famous. That was his whole, like, he didn't need the money so much as he was just trying to make a name for himself. He's like, I want to be famous. I'm going to rob trains. And the cops shot him because that's what cops do. And nobody knew his real name at the time, I think, something along those lines. So apparently back then, they would just put dead bodies in coffins and sit them up in front of, uh, I guess, the coffin maker guy's business, right? On display, right? And then people could come by and like claim their loved ones, right? So maybe it's early in the 20s. Maybe it was like 1890s or something. But whatever, doesn't really matter. So here's this dude, wanted to be famous, got himself killed. So he sits out in front for a few years. Some guy comes by, he's like, "Oh, that's my brother. I came here from Oklahoma to get him, etc., etc." The mortician or the coffin maker, whatever it is, he's like, "Okay, whatever." The guy takes him. That guy was not his brother. That guy just put him in a traveling like carnival thing, and he called him like the bandit of the West. Come see the greatest bandit the West ever had. Whatever nonsense he billed him as, right? And he toured him all over America for years and years and years. And then eventually the body got too rotten, and they started billing him as the 1,000-year-old man. And then he continued to go around in this carnival for a while as the 1,000-year-old man. And then at some point he got sold to some sort of horror, like a Ripley's Believe It or Not museum type thing. And then that went out of business. And when they were selling off their stuff, that got sold as a wax prop to a this horror house in LA. And so they thought it was just a prop. And so they hung it up in this horror house, right? And then, they figured out the whole thing, and they pieced it all back together after the dead body was found in the 70s, and they, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Fine. That story is all well and good, right? Let's go to right before the $6 Million Man gets made, like the late 60s. This little kid's going through that horror house, and he sees this dead body hanging, right? And he's just freaked out by it. It just traumatizes him, right? He's like, I am freaked the fuck out. Pardon? No, we curse. Right? We do now. He's like, I am freaked out. Like, traumatizes this kid, right? His dad's like, whatever, it's just a dummy or whatever, right? That guy, this like hung with him, right? That guy went on to do all the original art for Masters of the Universe. And explicitly in the Toys That Made Us thing, he says, I based it on the thing in the horror house that freaked me out when I was a kid, that later on in life, just in like the 80s or whatever that story came out with the $6 Million Man, like 10 years after he had seen it, he got vindicated because it was a big news story at the time, dead body found in a horror house or whatever. Like, they didn't have the whole story, but they had that part of it, right? And he was like, I knew it. And when you look at a picture of the dead body, you can see where the inspiration for Skeletor came in. He was like, it was the lips and the eyes. The eyes were all sunken in and the lips got all small and it looked like this little crease of a mouth. He's like, that was the inspiration for Skeletor. So if you put the two stories together, it's a fun little story.
That's awesome.
Which brings you back to the guy. He wanted to be famous. He ended up on every little kid's bedroom floor in the 1980s, right? Who didn't have a Skeletor action figure sitting on their bedroom floor at some point? You want to talk about getting his dream? He wanted to be famous? That's famous as fuck.
Wow.
That's the kind of story I love. Now I want to see those episodes and like hear the research.
Yeah, the most of that story comes from the My Favorite Murder thing, except for the part about Skeletor that comes from the Netflix thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good times.
Wow.
I had 3 tangents, and I've done 2 of them, and I don't remember what the third one was. I had some notes. I don't know where they went, so that one's not happening.
I wrote down so many things about this movie.
I mean, I'm just about tapped out. You took this movie a lot more seriously than I did.
No, I have so much more. I'm so sorry.
No, go for it. I'm fascinated.
Let's go.
All right. One of the things again that became real evident to me as I was watching this, I guess it all comes back to budget and decisions, right? Because like it seemed like when they committed to this idea, they were like, oh my God, every set that we make is going to be destroyed, right? Like you've got these travelers from another dimension that come and they all have laser guns and stuff like that. And like part of it is just about like battles that happen in our world and just like, there's going to be it they wanted it to, I guess, be like a cartoon with like throwing people around and things getting blown up and stuff like that. And it was like you could see the fingerprints all over the decisions. Like, why was that big battle in that junkyard? Like, it was so weird and it made no sense. And I felt like it was just because they could literally throw people around and not have to worry about continuity or what they already blew up because it all just looked like junk. Like there was three or four sets where it was like, just, hey, we're gonna destroy stuff. And I felt like the school gym was like, all right, we make a bunch of like silly school dance props, and it's like, all right, like we make 6 like crappy pyramids or Eiffel Towers or whatever it was, and it's like you get 6 takes, like we shoot that thing and we light it on fire, and like we arts and crafts like 3 or 4 more, and it's like that's how many takes you get, and like with the junkyard, I just felt like it was like, all right, let's you could throw people around. Like, I just felt like it was so weird that they had that fight in the junkyard. But then when I saw how they destroyed that music store, I was like, all right, I guess this is why they did it, because they're going to destroy every set,
Sounds about right. But which makes me think it wasn't so much a writer or director steering this ship as much as it was like being mildly nudged by all the people who had to make scenes happen.
Yeah, totally.
Like, well, we can't do that part of the story because we don't have that costume, so it's not going to be Trapjaw. Sorry. Costume department has spoken. This fight scene can't be on the top of the building where you wanted it to be. It's got to be in a junkyard. Sets has spoken. And
oh my
I
God.
don't know that that's a great way to make a movie.
You're right. That's exactly what it was. It was a rudderless ship. It was a director that had no voice, and everybody else was like, I made 6 of these Eiffel Tower props. So we could do this shot 6 times, or like, yeah, like, does it have to be in a city street? Let's put it in a junkyard. Then we could break whatever we want. It's all junk.
Does it have to be an old mill? Old mill burned down. Part of a spate of suspicious fires. Oh God. That sounds about right. That sounds exactly like how this happened. It was just one fly-by-night thing after another.
I also wrote down that Principal Strickland / Lubbock? Was he like Officer Lubbock? Was he like Detective Lubbock? Lubbig?
He was in plain clothes. I'm going to call him the detective.
This guy, Detective Lubbig, was the worst cop ever. Did they write lines for him, or did they just let him say whatever he wanted? Because it was ridiculous.
Yeah, he seemed like he was like a no-nonsense guy at first, but then like all the officers were like, I know had a crazy story, but he didn't like, it seemed out of character that he was just going to let these subordinates talk to him that way. That's crazy talk.
And then he wound up living in Eternia at the end.
He's like, I'm staying here.
He's like, yeah, I'm staying right here. I got ladies. I got togas. I'm in. I'm just staying here.
I think that's the sequel, is like Detective Lubbock ruining Eternity. You know what I mean? Like him being like, all right, Trapjaw, this is no nonsense here. I'm going to take you down to the station and book you. You're going to talk to the chief. What do you think you're doing, Beast Man? I'm going to run you in. Talk to the chief. Think you're funny, buddy?
Are you telling me that if they came out with tomorrow, Lubbock of Eternia, you wouldn't sit down and watch a 3-hour movie? Because I'm in. Hell, I'll go to the theater on not a Tuesday. They can have my $10 and I will watch that.
He was so weird. He reacted to all the wrong stuff. Like, I can't even explain it. It was like somebody would say something and then he'd be like, oh, like, you think you're funny, hotshot? And then something like out of this world would happen, like a crystal would make a portal, or I don't know, somebody would shoot a laser gun or something, and he didn't react to any of that stuff like it was paranormal. He would then be like, you're all in trouble, I'm gonna haul you all in. Like it was, it was so weird.
And he had a hard time fighting the kid. Like, I know the kid was a pseudo an adult, but he certainly wasn't macho. Like they had that whole scene where he's fighting with him over the gun. You're supposed to be this like tough detective guy. This kid's like 17 and kind of scrawny. I mean, I was scrawny, but this kid was kind of scrawny. And like, it's like a battle. Why is that a battle? Why can't you beat this kid? You're a trained officer. What is
Yeah.
happening?
Sorry, I didn't write this down exactly the way it happened, but I'm trying to piece it together from what I wrote down. It was like it was like it was like Tila took his gun, and then it was like everybody get in the back for your safety, and he fought with them, and he was like, all right, I'm going. And then she gives the gun to Kevin. So like she looks at him and was immediately like, you're not trustworthy, you're gonna like screw up our battle. And she's like, Kevin, you should get this gun. And then like he continues to like berate Kevin and like threaten to arrest him and like lock him up for 800 years or something like that, right? And then there's this like ridiculous battle where there's like lasers going off and like things are exploding, and like he's still fixated on Kevin and the gun, right? And then I don't remember what happens. Somebody gets shot or something. I don't know, but whatever. And then the friggin' leprechaun gets the gun and fires it. And he's not like, I'm gonna haul you in, leprechaun. He's just like, oh, okay. Like he reacted to all the wrong things. Like I felt like they just gave him a rough idea of what funny things they wanted him to say and not an actual script. Like it was like, I know that guy's
that's exactly what happened.
Like that's what happened.
No, I'm not for 100% certain, but I would be shocked to hear that that's not what happened. I feel like so much of this was made up on the spot.
You just said Leprechaun, and it rang a bell with me. It occurs to me this was Courtney Cox's Leprechaun, which makes me want to find Lisa Kudrow's.
Wait, Courtney Cox was in Leprechaun?
No.
Jennifer Aniston was in Leprechaun,
Jennifer
right?
Aniston
Exactly.
was Leprechaun.
This was Courtney Cox's
Cox
Leprechaun.
Master of the Universe.
Jennifer Aniston had Leprechaun, same time period, same little guy. Well, I mean, different little guy, but same looking little guy. Now we got to find the Lisa Kudrow Leprechaun. What was her early mistake with a funny little man and a terrible movie? Because I want to watch that movie.
Oh my god! And then there should be a show that's like Friends, but it's the three of them and the three leprechauns.
I love this.
No one told you this was gonna be super weird.
All right, there was a TV movie of Close Encounters. She played a Valley girl.
Maybe. It depends on what came out of the spaceship there. It would have been a little something. They made a TV show out of Close Encounters, and I missed that? How did I miss that? That seems right up my alley.
I have more questions.
Okay.
How old is Julie, and does she live alone?
Her parents are dead. And maybe.
Her parents are dead, and it looks like her house is being, like, packed up.
Yeah, because she's moving to New Jersey. And that's the tragedy of this story, is that Courtney Cox never gets to move to New Jersey, the greatest state in the Union.
She never gets to move away from Kevin.
Well, that's sad, too.
But then Kevin does save the world. I feel like in the beginning, I wanted her to move away from Kevin when, like, she gets in the car and gives him the wings, and then he's like, "You gonna come to my sound check, babe?" I was like, I want her to get as far into New Jersey as possible. But then when Kevin saved the world, I was kind of like, well, maybe she should stay with him.
I don't know. I'm not a musician, but it doesn't seem like you should drag your girlfriend to a sound check ever, and then especially not the day she's moving out of state and you're breaking up. That seems like maybe you take the day off from your DJing a high school dance gig. And certainly don't ask her to spend her few last hours coming to your sound check.
Here's another thing that Kevin did, which it makes me feel conflicted about Kevin, because I feel like in so many ways he was like a garbage person, but then he saved the world. So when Kevin and Lubbock are in Julie's house, Julie's half packed up, lives alone in her house without her parents' house? Question mark. I'm not sure I get it. But
they
when
recently died.
It's unclear.
I thought they died like a year ago.
Well, yeah, I don't know, recently. I don't know. You know how
What's
the
she been
state
doing
does.
this whole time? Has she been living by herself in that house?
Yeah.
It was definitely a
She's been
confusing point.
living by
For sure.
herself and working at the wings and ribs shack.
Where do you want her to work?
I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with how. I'm just trying to understand this. All right, so
Do you remember the 80s? Remember when they just let like 4-year-olds get on buses in all these movies and you're just
oh
like,
right, I forgot about that.
like, she's
Part of-
17. She could have a house and go to school and a job. She's fine.
Part of our Where Were the Parents podcast.
Right, yeah.
I guess if Christina
In this
Applegate,
case, dead.
I guess if Christina Applegate can become a fashion editor while her family is away, then
That's a good point.
then Courtney Cox can certainly work at the Wings Shack and support herself for a year. All right, so when Kevin and Lubig are in her house together, Kevin reheats the wings, which thank God they established those wings in the first 3 episodes, or I wouldn't have understood what was happening when he reheated them. And then the microwave blocks the signal from them, from Evil Lynn tracking them, and then they blow up the microwave. And then,
which itself was funny because like I can't do it. She's like, do it. And then it seemed like it was really easy to do because he just did it.
yeah. And then Strickland seems to not, not Strickland, Lubig seems to not, again, react to the appropriate things, like the microwave blowing up and how weird that was. He takes the interdimensional key. And then, so then the next shot, when we see Kevin next, he's cleaning up her house. And he sweeps a bunch of Burger King boxes and stuff into the sink like they're dirty dishes, right?
That was amazing. I was looking at that like, what is it? What's he doing?
So
What's
first,
the end game here?
yeah. So first, it's like Kevin thinks that this is an acceptable way to clean up her house. Poor Courtney Cox with her dead parents' house, right?
She's gonna come home and wash those styrofoam containers.
She's not coming home. That's why it's okay. She's out. She's to New Jersey. She's out of here today. This is her last day. That is the new homeowner's problem. Kevin's like, fuck these guys.
But
This stuff will go down the garbage disposal for sure.
I'm also like, when the wings didn't work out, he somehow got BK. Like,
And a lot of it.
oh my God.
I remember watching that sink scene, and all I can think is like he does it in such a way without pausing or like, I don't know. The actor does it so smoothly that all I can think is that the actor, I don't remember his name already. Let's call him Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas, as a human being, thinks that's acceptable. Like, the actor must have thought you could just scoop things in the sink and walk away. That's how you clean up, right? Because if he was a normal human, I don't think anybody, not even like De Niro, has the acting wherewithal to do that with a straight face and just such smooth motion and walk away like that's a normal, acceptable, okay thing to do.
Yeah, this movie's a fascinating character study, right?
Isn't it?
Yeah. What else you got?
I don't know. Somebody else talk for a minute.
I got 2 minor side nuggets. One, I did end up watching Meatballs. It wasn't as terrible as we had all feared. It got a little rapey in one scene, but I mean, compared to like Rocky, which I think is a great movie, but does have a problematic rapey scene. Compared to Rocky, its rape level is minor. It wasn't as terrible as we thought it was going to be, but it also wasn't amazing. You can kind of see where I don't know. You can kind of see where comedy built on it. It felt like I was watching what Hot American Summer was making fun of. It felt like trope after trope after trope before they were tropes.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't recommend it to our listeners or to the two of you as a good use of your time, but I don't know. It wasn't terrible. Bill Murray's Bill Murray. I mean, the man can deliver a line like nobody else. So it definitely had its moments, but yeah, it was meh. And then the M1 that I thought of after the fact, and I'm kicking myself that I didn't suggest this one. My Science Project. I can't recommend this enough. I just watched it the other night. It is a mid-'80s movie. The only big names in it are Dennis Hopper, who plays an LSD science teacher, like an LSD using science teacher, and who's the guy who played in Short Circuit? Who
Fisher Stevens?
is he the one who they made him play an Indian guy and he's not Indian?
Yeah.
He's in it. He plays like a greasy Italian kid. That was very overly stereotypical greasy Italian kid. Like they were just pushing hard. So it's him and Dennis Hopper. Maybe maybe Principal Strickland again. I don't remember now. And I just watched it the other night. He might have had a bit part in it. But My Science Project is just a piece of '80s. Oh God, it is wonderful. Can't recommend it enough.
I am not familiar with this movie. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah. I found it for free the other night. I watched it on a non-nefarious site. I think it was like Tubi or
not Tubi.
Yeah, I think it was Tubi. I'm not 100% sure, but you can find it for free just on your situation. It might have just been on YouTube. I don't think anybody's protecting the copyright on this bad ride because I mean most people would say this is not a good movie, Sean, but they're wrong. It's great.
Yeah, I've never heard of that one either. I'll have to check it out.
Mm-hmm. If you like high school kids fighting Bob Genghis Khan in their school gymnasium and then finding a dinosaur in the next room and a space alien in the one after that, like if you just want some nonsense happening for no apparent reason, I mean they give some science reasons, it's science, but it's great.
That's more than this movie gave.
Yeah. No, I wish we'd watch this one. You realize we did this whole podcast. We've been talking for over an hour. I think we probably spent about 10 minutes actually talking about the movie because it's just if we're telling our viewers whether or not to go spend their time watching it, I'm going to say no, unless you got a real nostalgia, a real urge for that nostalgic late '80s feel. And I was about to say He-Man feel, but no, if you got a nostalgia for He-Man, don't watch this. If you just got a nostalgia for like late '80s bad movies, sure, go ahead.
If you just want to be able to say you've seen this movie, because that's where I was at. Like, I've never seen Master of the Universe before. It seems like a cultural experience I should have in my life as a human. Mm-hmm. We're trying to fill in the blanks on important movies I've never seen. Not that this is important, but it's like I was a kid who loved Master of the Universe, and I never saw the Master of the Universe movie, even though I knew it was bad. And now I'm glad I've seen it, though it is definitely as bad as I thought it was going to be. But I did have fun with it, so that's something, I guess.
I can't recommend this to anyone in good conscience.
Paul's like, absolutely not.
Not at all.
That is a mixed review. Chris is basically a yes. I'm like a yes with a lot of provisions there. You got to be searching for that feel. And Paul's just like, no, absolutely.
I'm 100% with Sean. I'm 100% with Sean. It's yes with some very serious provisions. Like, you've got to be damaged like me. A normal person should not go out of their way to watch this movie unless there was some sort of like Mystery Science Theater or riff tracks attached to it.
Oh, why didn't they do that? Did they do this? They should have done this.
It would probably make it more tolerable.
It would probably be a pretty good movie. It's a pretty good setup for it. And that's why it put me to sleep the first time, because it put me in my happy place, which is watching Mystery Science Theater, which is the sound of bad old movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'm pretty well tapped. I mean, I wrote down a lot of stuff about I wrote down a lot of stuff, but I feel like a lot of it is the same thing, and it was just me being mystified by Lubbock. Like I just couldn't wrap my brain around him. I also wrote down that I thought it entertained me that what's the leprechaun's name? Gwildor?
Let's say yes.
that Gwildor was impressed because Kevin could remember notes.
Yeah, that was. What is the relationship with music in Eternia? It doesn't seem to make any sense at all. Or Master Soundsmith. Oh my goodness. No, just a guy.
That was the other thing you mentioned. Grildor again. That's what I'm calling him. I thought maybe this was like they used the new characters to push it. Again, I was trying to, just like with Mortal Kombat, where I was like, oh, I assume this character is going to be the big character in the next game or whatever, that's coming out tomorrow. So they're introducing him with this movie. I was like, well, maybe they wanted to use these new characters because they were coming out with this whole new line of action figures and they wanted to sell them to the kids, right? I get marketing. I get it, right? No. They made the Grildor character, and I think that might have been it. There might have been like a limited edition Blade character that you could like somehow get, but like they didn't make any of those other new characters. So it's like it wasn't even a shameless money grab. Like, sure, shameless money grab it up. That's not what it was. So
Yeah,
it was one other thing I thought.
That whole scene just blew me away because it was like, yeah, it was like, how can we remember the tones? And then Kevin reiterates the tones, and he's like, oh, and it's like Kevin literally just performed a task that like we all did if we had a Simon, and
oh, you see, what you don't understand is that everybody in Eternia is really stupid.
And then like Gwildor starts like rattling off some like weird nonsense like science stuff. He's like, well, I'll need a quantum glorifier or something like that.
I have a quantum glorifier in my pocket.
No, not even in her pocket. She literally took a thing off of her shoulder that had been there the whole movie. Like, what?
Oh, I got one of those. Sure thing. No question. What? Why? What?
Yeah, it was bananas. And then they went into Eternia, and then what's his face, Strickland, Lubbig, follows them into Eternia and continues to like react to the wrong things. Like they're firing lasers at him, and he's like, "I was in Korea, and it wasn't even this bad." Like, this movie was nuts. You want to know what else I read about this movie, or like maybe watched on a like YouTube clip or something? Apparently, they weren't going to finish it.
They were just going to give up.
like apparently they made 90% of the movie, and they were just out of money, and they're like, we're not going to finish it, And then I don't know, the people lobbied for it, or the stars. People.
Tell me the stars put in their own money to finish this.
I don't know. People made a big deal, and then, they somehow greenlit it for them to finish it. But apparently that's why the final battle with He-Man and Skeletor looks so weird, and it's like in the dark and stuff, is like they apparently they ran out of money. Like it was like they were just going to stop production, and they were like, well, we literally can't release the movie without this battle between He-Man and Skeletor. And, that's kind of why they did it in like low light, and it was like uninteresting and didn't have special effects, because it was the last thing they did when they were out of money. Like, did you notice that? They crossed swords and then everything went dark?
I just thought that was I thought that was something that the director just thought looked cool.
Yeah, apparently they were out of cash.
It was a little jarring. True. It was like, what is happening? But considering all the other jarring things that had happened, it just kind of felt par for the course. It was like,
exactly,
all right, baby,
yeah,
keep it a rocket.
Just seemed like okay, sure, let's do that. Seems like it's. I'll try spinning. That's a neat trick.
He never had a shield, I don't think, which was like an iconic part of the toy. That shield, it was like a gray with the orange, like there's like a cross on like a circle.
Yeah, that was supposed to be on this little chest thingy there too. Yeah.
And then
they missed
gave
all the marks.
They gave him a cape at one point, and I wasn't like the biggest He-Man, fan in the world, but I had a couple dozen toys or whatever. I don't think he ever had a cape. If he did, I lost it instantly, but I don't think he had a cape.
I don't think so. Maybe the other guy did. Maybe Prince Adam did, but I don't think He-Man did.
There was no Prince Adam.
They didn't even try.
Not even a hint. It's like, no, he's just beefy all the time.
Well, and like, didn't the sword? What gave him his powers? Was it Grayskull, or was it the sword, or was it the sword and Grayskull? Like,
it kind of depends on what you're following. Like, a lot of people in the most recent He-Man show that Kevin Smith did, they kind of played with that, where Skeletor took the sword from him and did the whole "I have the power" thing and got all big and beefified, and then Prince Adam was just like, "Yeah, no, I have the power." And the sword was just like, he always had access to the power, but the sword was like what kept it under control. So he turned into this big, like, feral, brainless He-Man that just messed everything up.
yeah, I like that show. A lot of people.
That was great.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Awesome.
A lot of people complained about it, and they were like, woke He-Man, lesbians, and ruined my childhood, whatever. Like, I thought it was great, and
Yeah.
Mostly why I thought it was great was because every damn toy I played with was in that show. Unlike this movie.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah.
You had Mark Hamill just hamming it up as Skeletor, which was so entertaining. Oh, that show was so much fun. They gave Orko his due too. That made me really happy because Orko was my favorite when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That show was great. It's getting a sequel too.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I thought there was enough weird complaints about it that maybe it wouldn't get one, but I liked it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, Masters of the Universe. It's another something. It's another word. That one was Revelation. This one is Revolution. I don't know. Relatability.
I want it to be restitution.
Ridiculous.
Restitution. Rectum. That freaking J plays Stinkor. That was me. Anyway, well, I'm tapped out. I don't want to talk about this movie anymore. I got exactly what I wanted out of it, which is to see it and then and smile while I watched its ridiculousness, and that's about all I got. So we should probably do our best to pick a good movie for next time, right?
I think so.
We've had a run of bad movies.
Yeah.
Three bad movies in a row.
People are going to think that's what this podcast is. Bad movies.
Oh, shit.
Is that I didn't think of a movie or I didn't think of a good movie?
Look, I have what I would call. Are we doing movies now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I had two good ones in mind, and when I say good ones, somewhat interesting ones in mind, and then I came up with what I thought was the perfect one. But now you just said that, and I'm like, son of a bitch. F it, you guys have good movies, right?
I think so.
I'm going to say yes.
All right, we'll just vote for one of yours. I'll go first. So the two I was thinking of when I first started looking, I was like, what end movies? I was like, you know what I watched not too long ago for the first time was Naked Lunch, right? And it didn't do much for me. I didn't love it, but it was as weird as everyone said it was going to be, and it's got a cult following. I was like, maybe I'll sucker these two into watching it. Maybe it'll have more meaning for me, right? If I have a conversation about it, maybe it'll somehow, I don't know, make him having sex with weird little blobs of, I don't know what the hell was going on in that movie. It got weird, and then it got weirder.
I remember that movie, and do you know why, Kris? There was that other guy named Kris that you worked with at GameStop. And,
Kris Galante.
Yeah, and like he and I used to like swap weird VHS movies. Like that was one of the weird movies he lent me on back in the before time when we were all sharing VHS tapes.
Right.
Kris Galante was a fascinating dude. I totally miss him.
Yeah.
So that wasn't even the movie I landed on. That was one of the ones I came up with. The other one I came up with before I found my perfect movie, which is not perfect at all now, was Neighbors. If you guys haven't watched Neighbors, I haven't seen it in years, but I think it's probably worth a rewatch. It was Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, and they're neighbors, and one of them's terrible, right? But Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, you're working with something there.
Oh, that's funny, because didn't they like remake that movie with like Seth Rogen and like Dave Franco or something?
Yeah, they did. You're absolutely right. And I think actually the Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi might have been a remake of like a 20s movie, if I'm not mistaken, or 30s, or like a black and white and old movie. But I didn't decide on those two because then I was like, holy shit, this is the one. And I'm sure Chris has never seen it because he doesn't like horror movies. But God, I'm going to get voted down here because we're looking for a good movie, and this is not going to fall into that category. But you should both watch this movie anyway, and all our 7 listeners should watch this movie anyway. Night of the Creeps. Oh man, Night of the Creeps. It is the most 1980s, just dripping with 1980s zombie movie ever. If you look it up, it says comedy horror. I do not think it was meant to be a comedy. It is not a comedy horror. It is a horror movie that was done in the 80s, and it's funny. But that does not make it a comedy. Two very different things. And God, the everything about it's way at the top of my zombie list. I mean, you can't pass Night of the Living Dead for a great zombie movie, and there's one or two others that are just really well done zombie movies, but this one is right up there. And then I thought they had remade it with that movie Slither. Do you remember that? It had the guy from
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Nathan Fillion.
Right. When they had the previews for that, I was like, they're remaking my favorite zombie movie ever, Night of the Creeps. And when I went and watched Slither, which I really enjoyed, it felt like they wanted to remake Night of the Creeps and for some reason couldn't get the rights because a lot of it was very Night of the Creeps, like parts of the plot and even some of the scenes, but then other parts were very different, and they never called it that. They called it Slither, which makes me think like there was some sort of rights issue, which is crazy because, again, this is like a 1987 movie that nobody should be fighting to protect the rights for. But if you enjoyed Slither, go watch Night of the Creeps because I'm pretty sure Slither is a spiritual remake of Night of the Creeps.
So what's your pick?
Oh, I'm going with Night of the Creeps.
Oh, but, Night of the Creeps is the pick. Okay.
Yeah, because I'd just be in a rush right now to try to find something that's a quote unquote good movie.
Well, I mean, I personally thought your pick was going to be Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, that is a good movie.
And it starts with N.
Yeah.
All right, if we're trying to avoid shitty 80s movies, fine. I go Night of the Living Dead because Chris hasn't seen that either, and it is a classic, and it is a great movie. It's a brilliantly done movie, and I would always be happy to watch that one again. So
how about this, Sean? Whatever we end up picking, I'll still watch Night of the Creeps.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
All right, Paul, what do you got?
Yeah, I don't know. I probably did the same thing. I went through a bunch of different options for N. And I think ultimately what I decided on, and again, I think this was solely based on the fact that we've either, sometimes with the best intentions in mind, but the last 3 movies I think have been not great movies.
Absolutely.
I like with Lawnmower Man, I had full intentions of picking something that I thought would have a spirited episode because I literally thought that it was something that I was supposed to have seen, that it was a notable movie, and that I figured probably the special effects wouldn't hold up, but I was surprised that it was so god awful. But I think with all 3 of these movies, we had the best intentions, and then, it was like, good God, what have we done? So I'm going to pick a movie. My pick is going to be something, not necessarily that I know to be a great movie, but I'm fairly certain that society has said that it's a good movie. I'm pretty sure I've seen it, probably in a film class. Maybe even a high school film class, so you guys might have seen it decades ago. It's the baseball movie called The Natural that has Robert Redford, and he gets the bat that is from the tree that gets struck by lightning, the sort of mythical bat. So my pick is going to be The Natural.
That's a
solid
fun
pick. Yeah. Well, flipping a coin on this one. I got 2 picks that I'm really interested in watching, but I have to. All right, The one I'm going to skip over is one that I haven't seen in a long time, which is The Neverending Story. I used to love that movie when I was a kid, even though it was like really messed up. I'm very curious how I'd feel about watching it now because it's been a very long time since I've seen it. But instead, I'm going to pick my favorite comedy of all time, The Naked Gun, because it's my favorite comedy of all time, and I could stand to laugh.
Also, if you were to pick The Neverending Story, I would spend the whole hour of the podcast going, Never Ending Podcast. La 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 la.
All right, well, I guess let's vote.
So, just before we vote, we did a good job then. I mean, we had to rein me in, but Night of the Living Dead, The Natural, and Naked Gun, all of those movies should be on people's top list. Like The Natural's, that's a top 10 sports movie of all time, easy. Night of the Living Dead, top 10 zombie movie of all time, easy, or horror movie even. And Naked Gun, that's way up there on the comedy list. So these are all good movies. Good work.
Go team.
Go team.
Go team.
All right, everybody ready?
Standing by.
3, 2, 1, fight.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All right, Natural it is.
Cool.
I was so split on the two of them, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this for Karen because she loves inspirational sports movies, and I feel like she would enjoy that better than Night of the Living Dead. All right. Well, then I guess our next pick is Paul's pick, The Natural.
I was split on your guys too. I was like, at first I was like, yeah, Never Ending Story, and then I thought about it and I was like, I feel like I'd have a lot to say about Night of the Living Dead, but sounds.
Never Ending Story wasn't the option, right?
Oh, yeah, what was it?
It was The Naked Gun.
Oh, sorry. Well, it doesn't matter. You guys both chose mine anyway. So. Yeah, both of those. Those were. Yeah, those are three good picks.
I want to try my best to watch Naked Gun anyway because it's my favorite comedy. That movie makes me laugh so hard, and I haven't seen it in way too long.
Because it's that time of year, right?
What time of year is that?
I don't know. I've just assumed that there's a certain time of year that Kris watches Naked Gun.
There should be. I should make an annual excursion, but no, it's been a while since I've seen it. I did recently, like just last year, I watched all of Police Squad again though. That show's freaking great.
Oh, I never watched Police Squad.
Oh my god, there's only like 6 episodes. It's like almost like a nothing show, but every episode is brilliant.
So 3 seasons on the BBC.
Exactly.
Nice.
2.5 seasons. Series. They're not seasons, they're series. All right, so The Natural is our pick for our next episode, and it is available on Tubi and probably other methods as well. But there you go. We're going to talk about baseball. It's going to be awesome. Any final thoughts before I wrap this up?
No, I think the 10 minutes of time we gave to Masters of the Universe was about all it deserved.
Agreed. All right, then. A Theater Near You is a part of the Geekade Podcast Network, and if you'd like to get in touch with us to share your comments, movie suggestions, or whatever, you can send us an email at mail@geekade.com. We can also be found on most social media outlets and the official Geekade Discord server, all of which can be found in our show notes. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time in A Theater Near You.
Good journey.
I have the power.